Welcome to the Barbell and Beyond podcast, where we talk to athletes, experts, and coaches about all things related to training and competing in powerlifting. We will bring you the insights and stories that will take your performance, training, and mindset to the next level.
Hello and welcome to today's episode, where we're going to get to know Lauren a little bit more. We're also going to have myself, Luke Selway, helping you to get to know her. Today, we hope to get a little bit more background on Lauren, who she is as a coach, how she got here, and some of the things that she's working on within Barbell and Beyond. So thank you, Lauren, for jumping on this call. First of all, I thought I'd seen that you and other Barbell and Beyond coach Emma had run some workshops recently, which looked amazing. I saw your Instagram posts on them. So I thought it'd be cool to hear from you how this went, what you guys went through, and if there's anything else coming up.
Yeah, so Emma and I both hosted a workshop two weekends ago now, and we were in Ballarat. So she's based there in Melbourne. So I flew from Perth over to Melbourne, and she picked me up and drove me out to Ballarat. It initially started out as Emma's workshop, and then I kind of infiltrated. Well, I offered to help be a demo person for her, and she said, "No, you can come and help me do it." So we ended up collaborating on it, which was really, really cool. It was actually the first time Emma and I had ever met in person as well, which was really nice to finally meet her. Because we've worked together for a while now, but we've never actually met in real life. So that was awesome. And we managed to sell out the workshop before the time was up for it to sell. So that was very exciting. We had 8 females jump on board. All of them live around Ballarat area, and a handful of them already actually work with Emma, doing some in-person or online coaching. And we had a good mix of different types of people there. So we had some competitive lifters, some lifestyle lifters, and we even had some other coaches come along as well, which was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so a bunch of different backgrounds and experience levels. But essentially, we were kind of wanting to just cover powerlifting as a whole, I guess. So the whole point of it was to help people lift smarter. So to make, better lifting choices to help benefit their strength and progress. So to kind of briefly go over what we did cover, we went through breathing and bracing first, and also making sure to differentiate between the two, because there's some misconceptions around breathing and bracing being one thing. We went into squat, bench, and deadlift refinements, and essentially just did demos. We went through, some common mistakes we see, or technical errors that we see, ways that you can try and reinforce those or fix them. And then after each lift, we gave everyone 10 to 15 minutes to split off into groups, and they applied some of the tips that we'd provided. And then all of the ladies had a chance to kind of ask us questions. We were able to implement practical cues as they were going, which was really cool. And then following on from that, we also went through some accessory movement to help with injuries. And then we also talked about mindset at the end, which I think is a really big aspect of powerlifting that doesn't necessarily get talked in those types of workshops, when there's more of a practical element. So it went really, really well.
That's
really
cool.
Enjoy it. Yeah, we covered a lot.
That's full on. How long was the workshop?
It was 3 hours. So
wow, that's still a lot to get through in 3 hours.
Yes, yeah.
I think workshops are a really cool format to do things in, and I obviously have run quite a few, especially over the last couple of years. But to get through all of that in 3 hours, I'll normally spend 1.5 to 2 hours on just deadlifts or something, no accessories, nothing else. Obviously the bracing and different aspects of it, things that pertain to it. But yeah, that's impressive. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It was good though. I think having both of us there helped us in terms of managing the time and being able to spread over a little bit more through the 3 hours. So everyone got a decent amount of attention from either me or Emma or both. And we were able to cover a lot. And by the end of it, everyone seemed like they had learned a lot, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a cool format as well, because a lot of the workshops I've run in the past have been around the lifts, and they're appropriate for somebody who's maybe new to deadlifting or whatever. But I think having a kind of overall powerlifting workshop and being able to touch on the more advanced points of each of those, with knowing that everyone coming is already has the basics down, is quite cool. You kind of just get to do the high level stuff and focus on that without having to be like, okay, before we get started, this is how you deadlift. Like,
yeah, it was great. We did
really
quite
cool.
a somewhat in-depth pre-screen questionnaire type thing as well, just to ensure that we knew kind of what level each lady was at, and then also we could address specific points in regards to injuries or weak points. So it made it a little bit more personalized as well.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, so with your coaching and stuff, obviously you've moved to Perth recently. How long have you been coaching in general?
So I've been coaching for about coming up to 4 years now. So I started off as a personal trainer in a gym in New Zealand, and then I slowly, after a couple of years, I transitioned to doing some online coaching on my own. And then not long after that, I was asked to join Barbell and Beyond as a powerlifting strength coach. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, in terms of online with powerlifting, it's been about a year now. So,
yeah, kind of with a primary online focus as opposed to more of the general PT work.
Yeah.
How have you found that transition from in person to online? Because I know for myself, like it was a cool field to be able to take advantage of some of the things online, but it can also be a bit of a shift. Like, how did you find that? And do you have a preference now, having done a bit of both?
Transitioning over, it was different. I think you have to learn how to coach in a different way, because you're not with the person one-on-one all the time. You're getting feedback after the fact rather than right then and there. So I think learning to be adaptable to the athlete and not overloading them with too much in one go, that's a big thing that changes, because obviously you're seeing more of an overall view of their training from the week versus a half an hour 45-minute session. So in terms of that, not giving too many things to work on at once, that was a big change, rather than it being quite specific at the time. But I think in terms of like opportunity, it opened up a whole new thing, because it allows you to work with people from anywhere, at any time, any place. So it adds flexibility to my work life, which is nice. I have some days where I can work from home, some days where I'm working in person with clients, and there's a bit more balance with that. But yeah, I think it was a really good thing. It also allowed me to transfer a lot of my people in person from New Zealand to online, so I was able to continue working with them.
Natural. Hey, I'm leaving. Want to continue with me online?
Yeah, exactly. You build up that relationship with the coach or the person that you've worked for, and oftentimes it can be years and years that you have the same coach. So the idea of switching to someone new for an athlete or for a gen pop client, it's quite daunting or like uncomfortable. So having that option to say, hey, we can actually still do it together, just online, it was really good. I don't know if I have a preference over which. I do love face-to-face training, because you have that aspect of being with the person at the time, of course talking to a person in real time as well. So I don't know if I have a preference. I like both, and I would like to continue doing a bit of both, so that I have the flexibility when I need it. If I'm going to go away, for example, if I'm going to go home to New Zealand, I still have the ability to do some work. Whereas if I'm only in person, I don't really have that choice. So,
that's really cool. I think it gives the clients flexibility as well. Like, not just does it mean when you go away you can continue coaching, it means when you go away they can continue being coached.
Exactly.
Because I noticed this, or even when they go away they can continue being coached. Like if you have clients who are just going for a 2-week holiday or whatever, but having to be overseas for an extended period of time, both of you get that continuity. They can keep up their training, you can keep up the coaching side of it, and that's really cool. I think it's awesome that both you and Emma have done in person prior, because I think if someone was to ask me, should I go online or should I start in person, I think starting in person gives you such good training ground to be able to figure out, like you said, what fits into a session and making sure you're not overloading people. So I've seen coaches who start online, and I think you definitely can become a good coach eventually, just going straight into online. But I think you definitely have more of a tendency to overload people and not understand what fits into a session. And when you're doing your own training, because you're so familiar with it, maybe you can get through a little bit more than you can give somebody who's a bit newer and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it makes for a really, I don't know, just like really good, well thought through, and like a lot of understanding from the coach having had that in person. So
yeah. I think another thing that made it a smoother transition as well was that I already had an online coach. So Carly was already coaching me online. So that gave me that kind of insight as to how it all worked.
Yeah, you know the format.
Yeah, I knew the format. Also, I knew how well it could work. So in order for me to try and translate that to other people who might not have tried it, I can give them my real experience and show them that it is actually very much doable, even if you're maybe not a techie person or don't like being on your phone too much. It's super adaptable and it's very accessible. So it can work. You just have to get used to it.
Yeah, that's really cool. So prior to working as a PT in person, was that straight out of like school or tertiary, or what was your sort of lead into that, and what brought you into deciding to do PT?
So no, it wasn't my initial trajectory after I'd finished school. I actually moved to Queenstown initially to study tourism. And I did study tourism. So I have a diploma in adventure tourism management, which I've always loved, like outdoor activities, and hiking, kayaking. That was kind of like my jam. So that was what appealed to me in terms of going after school and studying. So I moved down to Queenstown and I finished my diploma and I started working in the industry, and that was when COVID happened. So not long after I'd finished, I actually lost my job, and it kind of, I guess, set me back to square one of thinking like, now what do I do? And because of COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty. The tourism industry was one of the most affected industry, of course. So I was a bit like lost, I guess you could say, in terms of what I should do. And that was when I started looking at other options for studying, and I landed on personal training, or my certificate in exercise. And I guess the main reason why I decided to do it, and the reason I decided I would enjoy it, was that I loved training already. So I started training from like the age of 16 in the gym, and it was something that I really enjoyed. And all throughout my years of like moving to Queenstown and studying and being a poor student, I always kind of found ways to get to the gym. Definitely not as like consistent or serious as I am now about it, but it was always something that I fell back on and something that I felt I was quite good at, or I could improve in. So that kind of pushed me towards studying it. And then so I completed my studies, and then I landed a job at at Snap Fitness in Queenstown once I'd finished, which was great. And then I guess the rest is history. I just kept learning, and then eventually found powerlifting.
That's really cool. So when you started training at like 16, were you like kind of just gymming for the sake of getting into the gym, or was that training for your outdoor pursuits, or what was your sort of jam training back then?
No, so I guess unfortunately it was more around trying to be skinny, which unfortunately is the story a lot of girls probably have when they're younger. A lot of females still to this day actually are fueled by that. But initially it came from a place of wanting to look a certain way, or fit into the societal norms of what a female should look like. I loved weight training, so I was still training with weights, but my focus, or the outcome of it for me, was to be smaller, or to be shredded, have abs, that type of thing. So initially the drive wasn't for performance or to help my outdoor pursuits. It came from that type of place, but it also kind of exposed me to the gym environment, and it exposed me to like what you can achieve in the gym. So after doing it for this long now, my perspective has changed a lot, and it also
Yeah.
influences a lot of my views around training and nutrition nowadays, and why we should train, and the reasons why people should train, or what their why is behind it.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think, like you said, it's super common for that to be somebody's gateway into training, and almost at least it gets people in the gym. But I think it's helpful when you can transition away and kind of broaden / deepen your mindset and goals within the
Yes,
training.
definitely.
Cool. So you started off with kind of general PT after getting in with your own gym experience there. And then how did you stumble into powerlifting?
So I actually met Carly. So Carly from Barbell and Beyond, she had moved to Queenstown briefly, and she was like looking around the gyms, and I worked in the gym. So I met her at my workplace,
Oh,
and
cool.
she ended up reaching out to me on Instagram, and essentially just said, like, have you tried powerlifting before? I did post a lot of stuff on my Instagram about barbell lifts, because I did really enjoy them. And I think I was following some generic program from it was like a strong program from online, but again, it was more like a bodybuilding style workout plan.
The power building stuff.
Yeah, more along those lines. So she actually reached out to me and just said, like, hey, if you are ever interested, I can see you've got potential, you enjoy it, so have a think about it. And I hadn't heard of powerlifting before. I didn't even know that it was a sport that existed. So I guess I was surprised that someone would message me about something like that, but it also was quite like, I was like, oh, that's actually really nice. Someone
Being
sees.
recruited.
I know, yeah. I was like, someone sees
Yeah.
some potential in me. So I think that was a big driver for me to actually begin, was to have someone who kind of backed me and said, like, hey, why don't you try? I can see this being a thing you might like. I can see this a thing you might be good at. Otherwise, I probably never would have done it, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't do, so I talked about how I like doing outdoor stuff, like hiking and kayaking and stuff, but I wasn't very much into sports. So I was quite like afraid of competitiveness, I would say. I didn't like that. It wasn't really something that I grew up with or exposed myself to. So the idea of doing a sport that is like a competitive sport was quite scary. I was like, oh, not too sure how to feel about it. But then I decided that I would just bite the bullet and start coaching. Not really with the intention to compete. It was more just to have a coach. I thought that would be really good for my own learning as a coach, plus my development as an athlete. And then and then at some point, Carly managed to get me to sign up for a competition, and that's how it all worked. So yeah, it was really
That's
good.
really cool.
Like, just having someone to push you a little bit sometimes is what you need, even if you feel like you've got that self-belief, but being reinforced by someone else can be really helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think Carly's got a few of us that way.
I know.
So then you've been competing now in powerlifting for the last two and a bit years, maybe. And you did nationals last year. How's that been, going from somebody who kind of didn't consider themselves competitive and then coming all the way up to nationals? And do you feel like you've picked up a competitive aspect, or is it sort of been more of a opportunity to kind of display your own performance, and you still don't engage with the competitive side of it that much? Or like, how's that been? Has that changed for you?
I think that I wouldn't say that I've developed a massive competitiveness against others, but the competitiveness with myself, it's there. I think it's more of an individual sport for me. But I also do see why people get really competitive with it. I think maybe one day, but I do it because I really love doing it. I enjoy it. It's something that I can stick to, and I can see all the incredible benefits that being a powerlifter has. So for me, the competing side of it is a cool way for me to get, a good way for me to get out of my comfort zone. And it's also a really great way for me to kind of like refocus. So with nationals, I was very surprised that I was at, that I could qualify to do a national comp, and it had been under a year since I'd started competing. But I was really excited. I was excited, I was nervous, but that just comes with competing with me. I get very nervous and excited. But it was kind of surreal, I think, just to think that, oh, I'm doing a national competition, like in a sports, like something that had never done. I'd never competed in anything before powerlifting. So I thought kind of like, well, if I don't take the opportunity now, I don't know if I'm going to get that opportunity again. I had kind of an idea that I was going to be leaving the country as well. So I thought, what a good way to go out with a bang, my first nationals. And it was also in the North Island, which is where I'm from. So it was really special. My parents were able to come and watch me.
Cool.
It was their first time seeing me compete, which was really cool. So yeah, I guess like, I don't think that I'm that competitive now that I'm here. Australia, there's a massive pool of powerlifters in comparison to New Zealand. So I think maybe with time being here, I might look into it in a more competitive aspect. But for me, I think that just competing itself and like doing a competition itself is so far out of my comfort zone that it feels like a really great achievement anyways. And like, I guess for some people, that's what it's about, right? There are people who are really competitive, and that's amazing. But then there are also a lot of athletes out there who do it for enjoyment and for fun. And I'd say maybe I fit more into that category.
Yeah, I think that's such a underrated and potentially under-discussed part of it, is that competitions can serve a purpose outside of just being there to compete with other people, and that you can, as an individual, get something out of turning up to the comp that you wouldn't get out of just doing, testing your lifts on your own in the gym. And that the competition environment can offer you something, even if your next competitor is way above or below you. I think it's I think it's definitely something that people don't consider enough, and I think it's worth competing, even if you're not sure, just to try it and see if it is something that you can get get personal benefit out of, regardless of what everyone else in the class is doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a cool way for you to like you said, it's an awesome way for you to test your lifts in a competition setting, not just by yourself in the gym, but then also you can then reflect on your competition performance and go, how am I going to improve next time? Like, I want to get a PB on my comp lift from last comp. You're still competing, but it's more so just against your own lifts.
That's really cool. So how did the nationals go for you? Did you find it like considerably different to other competitions you've done?
I think it was because it was spread over like a week. Obviously there was a bigger pool of athletes competing. It was super organized, which I really liked, and a lot less people at the venue for each flight, which I also kind of liked. I prefer to compete under like a more of a calm atmosphere, rather than a lot of hype or like loud stuff. So I found that was quite good for me and my own like preferred, preferences at a competition. There were like less people hanging around. It was a little bit less chaotic than some that I have been to. And the venue was amazing as well. Like, it was a really cool venue in Karapiro down in Canterbury. So it was great. It was ran really well. It was ran very smoothly. Everything was on time. So in terms of comp experiences, I think it was probably my best one in regards to the running of it all. And then performance-wise, it was pretty good. Got my biggest total out of all competitions. It was the last one that I have done. So like I said before, when you're just kind of competing against yourself, anything above the last total, I'm happy to get. So
that's really cool.
Really good. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think so true what you said, both about New Zealand having a small pool. It's potentially getting a bit easier to get to nationals. Like, I competed at nationals in New Zealand, and I don't know if I'd qualify for nationals here in Germany. I don't think so from last time.
Yeah, I don't know if I do in Australia either. the standard is a bit higher here.
Yeah, it's a bigger population and there's more people
Yeah.
into it. But also, I think that although there's a smaller crowd doing powerlifting in New Zealand, the nationals are run really well. Like I've competed at and then since then coached at a few of the nationals, and even compared to international competitions I've been to, the nationals in New Zealand is a really good experience. Yeah,
that's good.
That's really cool. So do you plan to compete again in Aussie now that the dust sort of settled with the move, or what's on the horizon for you with your own training?
Yeah, so I'm competing this Sunday.
I did not know. That is exciting.
Yeah. So
that is really cool.
Yeah, it'll be my first one over here. So it's been almost a year. So yeah, nationals was in November last year. It's almost a whole year since I've done any comps. So the intention with this one was actually just to sign up, first of all, get myself signed up, get the ball rolling. And I'm going in under a novice competitor because I'm kind of like, I just want to try out a few different federations potentially, some different competition environments and see what I like before I sign up for a fed. Also coming up to the end of the year. I just thought it'd be a cool way to finish off the year. So my prep's been really good. Prior to signing up for this, the main goal behind training was to just maintain the strength that I had built over the last couple of years with Carly. So it's been very consistent, but not massive amounts of progress because the goal was just to kind of maintain, especially while there was so much life things going on with the move. In terms of my capacity for growth in the gym, it wasn't as high as normal. So just signing up was a great way to be like, okay, let's start building again, and to almost like refocus myself, because it's been a hot minute since I've had a prep, and it really does help you lock in and set yourself goals and you go, okay, this is where we're going to go to, and this is what we need to do to get there. So I think having a bit more of a clear path towards something has been really good for my training. I'm kind of building back to around where I was pre-nationals last year, which is very exciting. So I'm quite happy with how we were able to maintain my strength over the last 6 months. So yeah, Sunday. I'm very excited, a little bit nervous because I'm in a whole new country now. So
yeah, that's super exciting. And potentially, like, even if it's within the same federation, the way that national bodies do things can be slightly differently. So the flow of the comp or the minor details on reffing can vary a little bit and that sort of thing. So it's
exactly.
I can imagine a bit of a new environment to get used to. Are you projected to be your total from nationals, or is the plan to match it?
I am projected, so I had a brief look at my comp plan yesterday, and projected to go over my total a little bit. Yeah, the main things that I'm quite keen to try and PB on would be like my bench press. So bench, I would like to try and get a little bit of a PB on it, and then my squat, we're planning to go for a PB squat, and then deadlift is going to be a PB match. So if all goes well with squat and bench, then I will be adding to my total, which is very exciting. However, in terms of my expectations going into this, I haven't set myself massive goals in that sense. I think for me right now, just having something to work towards was a really good thing. And going in and just enjoying it again is something that I really want to focus on. So if I don't achieve a massive PB total this time around, that's okay. I'll know where I'm at, and then I can, reassess and set some goals for my next competition.
Yeah, I think that's huge, being able to frame each competition and each period of training, which often a competition helps to kind of give you a defined focus for a period, being able to frame that appropriately, kind of define your parameters for success, and then be able to aim towards that, because obviously it's going to be different each round you do. Sometimes you can, really give it everything. Sometimes you've got a lot of else going on in your life. And I think that it can make such a big difference to mentally how you approach the day, and it being a positive experience, being able to frame it appropriately for the greater context of what else is going on.
Exactly.
So within your powerlifting and your competing, a lot of people find that they have a preferred lift that they do, either be the strongest or just the most, kind of satisfying that they find within it. So have you found that that sort of emerged as you've continued lifting?
Yes. My favorite lift is bench press, which is funny because we talked about how things evolve as you go through your powerlifting journey. And one of the things that changed for me was what my favorite lift was, for sure. So I used to be a big fan of deadlifting. And I hadn't really benched much before I'd started powerlifting. I had dabbled a little bit, but not enough to be good at it or to be consistent with
Yeah.
it. And I also didn't really understand it either. Like there wasn't really I had never been taught how to do it correctly. I didn't really get how to do it correctly. And so it was just something that I didn't really try. So I think once I began doing it properly, and I was taught the right cues, I was able to progress relatively fast with my bench. And it quite quickly became my favorite lift. And now it still is my favorite lift. I would bench every day of the week if I could. And you know how sometimes you might go into a session, you're like not always keen to train, but when I have
Yeah.
bench, I'm always excited. So
It's always a good day.
yeah, always a good day when it's bench day. But yeah, I love bench. I think the progress that I saw was a big contributor to me really enjoying it, of course, because we all like that, that dopamine rush of getting a PB.
Yeah.
And I guess I never saw myself being strong at a lift like bench press. Squats and deadlifts were quite prevalent in my training already, and I've been doing them for a long time. So I guess the idea of me benching quite well wasn't really on my bingo card. So starting at, I think my heaviest that I'd ever benched and pretty terribly was 50 kgs, which I mean isn't actually that light
That's
for a
pretty good.
beginner, but I mean
That is
marginal
amazing for a
technique.
beginner.
Very
Yeah.
marginal technique, I'll say. My bum probably was not on the bench. It was probably all feet. But now I can bench 80 quite comfortably, which I think is pretty exciting. And my
Yeah.
ultimate goal is I really want to crack that 100 kgs at some point, but I just know that's probably going to take at least 10 years.
Yeah.
The progress has
That's
slowed down with bench.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I think uh, benching body weight as a female is huge. Like just being able to get your body weight up, and I think especially as somebody because you're in the 69 kilo weight class.
Yeah, I'm in on 67.5s now over here.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay,
a
yeah,
little bit lighter, but yeah, same
yeah.
here.
So being able to eventually aim for that 100 kilos within sort of, I guess, what's considered middleweight females is really cool. I think that's such a cool,
Yeah,
such a cool kind of milestone to be pushing for. But 50
yeah.
kilos with it almost more impressive with worse technique. People always like, oh yeah, but it wasn't the best technique, and I'm like, that makes it more impressive, not less impressive. Like because
Yeah.
if you had better technique, you would have probably been getting more weight out. So that's
Yeah,
really cool.
potentially. Yeah, I mean, not too bad, but yeah, like I said, I didn't do it a lot. It was very marginal. And it
Yeah.
would be like the one off. Let's just see how much I can press, get pinned a couple times, and then finally get it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think has been like some of the key points that have transformed your bench from the the bum up 50 kilos to you being now able to do like way of your body weight?
Understanding how to set up correctly. So actually understanding like how high the bench should be, how far away the floor should be in comparison to my length of my legs, where you should set yourself up under the bar, like all those small, they seem minute, but those small parts of the setup that are actually really, really key. Because if you don't have those smaller parts down packed or understood, they can really mess with the actual execution of your press. So, for example, the benches that I was using pre powerlifting were way too high, so my feet could barely touch the floor. So understanding that sometimes you might need something to raise your feet up, like blocks or plates, so that I could actually drive through my legs. And going on from the setup, leg drive was a massive game changer. I always knew that you were supposed to use your legs or your feet in the bench somehow, but I had no idea how to utilize it properly and what it was actually doing. So I think my perception of that was to just push down into the floor as hard as you could, and that usually will result in your glutes lifting off the bench. So it didn't really make sense. I was like, I kind of get it, but I don't get it. So that was one of the biggest technical things that I learned that really, really transformed it for me. And figuring out that it's not just an upper body exercise, it's a full body movement. Like you're using everything in your body to make it work. And then another cue that has been probably quite transformative in my bench is to make your neck as flat as you can on the bench. So kind of like really double chinning it so that you can actually put the leg drive and the setup together for it to work. So those are the biggest things, and they're probably the things that quite commonly you see people not doing correctly or maybe need help with. Leg drive being a really big one, because you can get to a certain load without it and you can press it, but you will get to a point where you hit a plateau and you need to utilize things like leg drive to help you push past that and make sure that you stay stable and strong and that it's safe as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. That neck flat on the bench is a cool cue. I haven't actually heard that one before, but it gets to the idea of like getting up on your shoulders and getting that thoracic extension, but potentially a bit more visceral is the right word, but a little bit easier to think about the kind of for somebody without just trying to get an idea of how to position their body, but just have one thing to focus on that sort of pulls everything else together.
Yeah. So nice flat neck, because it just gives you a really good surface to press against. And sometimes if that doesn't make sense for some people, I just say like literally do a double chin, like chin towards your chest. Yeah.
I had a friend when I was in uni that we used to train together, and he would do a serious double chin when he benched, and from the spotter's view, he'd look like Beaker from the Muppets, because he'd really pile up onto his shoulders and his sort of chin would disappear into his neck. And he wasn't a big guy; he could just like really push into it. And then that plus the sort of strained face from benching, and I had to not put him off when I was spotting, because it just looked like Beaker benching.
It's definitely not. You're not trying to look cute, that's for sure.
No, not here to look cute. At least not in the moment. The cute can be for the photos afterwards, but like not during the list.
No, you've got to do the double chin if you want to get a good setup.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. No, I think lift faces are an underrated kind of component. I think powerlifting comps should definitely do like a best lift face award at the end, because some people have some fantastic, squat faces or whatever when they're lifting.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you feel like the mindset around training for powerlifting versus what training you were doing beforehand is quite different? Like, how has that changed? How has having that powerlifting focus changed the way that you kind of approach training from the mindset side of it?
It's significantly changed my mindset. I think that's probably one of the biggest parts, or the biggest transformations. Like, obviously, yes, my strength has transformed, but the mindset behind powerlifting has completely like changed my whole outlook on training in general, and coaching. So I think with powerlifting, obviously you're very much performance focused training. You're trying to get stronger in your squat, bench, and deadlift, and you're trying to present that strength as much as you can on the platform. So I think that requires lots of patience. So a lot of patience and a lot of discipline. So in terms of me enjoying the process a lot more, that has been a massive change. So actually learning to, give yourself time to make the progress that you want to make, and enjoy the process while you're at it, of course. So when it comes to competing, of course, you have that outcome that you potentially want, but we aren't competing every month or every week. You're not testing your strength all the time. So, seeing the progress over time and identifying smaller measures of progress has been a massive game changer. Whereas before, when I guess my focus was more on body image or how I looked, you're never going to be satisfied, I don't think. You're always chasing something better, and you're never going to be happy with the outcome. So having that switch from being about how I look to how I feel and how I train and how I show up on the platform has been like a massive shift in terms of like my confidence, in terms of my like resilience as well. That's another thing. You know, being able to do something tough in the gym, or, you know, do something really hard on the platform that I didn't think I could do, has translated very nicely into my everyday life and like facing challenges, because we all face challenges. And it's almost like a skill, you know, you're learning it in the gym, but you're able to put that outside of the gym and actually utilize it in real life scenarios. So yeah, it's definitely completely changed my outlook. I think the biggest thing has been my confidence, because I'm no longer focused on how I look. I'm not chasing like a body type, you know, I'm chasing being stronger. And it doesn't really matter how I look as long as I get stronger, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think too, there's sort of a happy accident along the way where a lot of people end up pretty happy with how they look when they get stronger. Like strong bodies tend to look pretty good, and so often you can be like, I'm not training for, you know, for aesthetic goals anymore, and then you get a few years into it and you're like, actually I'm pretty happy with how this looks.
I know,
like,
I know, exactly.
Without it having to be the main outcome that you're pushing for.
It's a nice byproduct of the training that you're doing, so it makes it almost a little bit more rewarding in that sense, right? Because, you know, you feel good, you look good a little bit too.
Yeah. How does it feel? I'm curious about this, sort of being a like a female powerlifter in this space. Does it is it different from the rest of gym culture, or do you find it quite similar? And do you think it's like, do you find it feels different for you compared to maybe like the male athletes you work with?
I think now that I have been doing it for longer and I've been exposed to like going to competitions and stuff, I see that it is very much an inclusive space for females and males, which I guess I didn't really expect. So yeah, going to a competition, you see like different ages, different genders, like different body shapes, different everything. Everyone is so individual, and everyone is supporting each other. So I think that was one of the biggest things for me, seeing like females and males all doing the same sport and doing it really, really well, and still getting the same amount of recognition and support behind them. I think maybe for females, there's sometimes a little bit of like a misconception, or not as much of an understanding going into the sport about what it actually is, which I admit that I didn't really know myself, because I still hear it all the time, girls talking about not wanting to get stronger because they're afraid of growing muscles, or they're afraid, you know, they're afraid of looking manly or bulky. So I think from that perspective, yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but it's still very inclusive. Once you're in it and, you know, you're part of the powerlifting community and you kind of embrace it, I feel like it's very inclusive, and there's not really that like this, you're not made to feel like you have to fit into a certain mold to be a part of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think in terms of perspective, I think it's really good for women. I really do. I think they learn how to, you know, train in a way that's really good for them, and it's good for them for a long time in their life. And then also it teaches them to love their bodies and to be proud of their bodies and what it can do, rather than feeling like they don't look a certain way, so they're not worthy, you know. But yeah, I love it, and I think it's really, really good for women, and I think it's empowering as a female to be in that space and to feel like you're accepted to take up space and be strong, and like people are celebrating you for it.
It's interesting you say that specifically. I feel like the whole take up space thing is something I've heard from a lot of women recently. From your kind of a perspective as a woman growing up, do you feel like you are pressured to, or sort of implied that you shouldn't take up space? Because I guess as a guy, I'd never really thought about that until I started coaching women, and the whole sort of take up space thing started to become a bit of a recurring theme. So like, do you have any insights on why that's such a thing for women, and then I guess how training kind of helps you navigate that?
Yeah, I think the saying taking up space, I think part of it comes from that culture of being pressured to be smaller, for sure. So women trying to be skinnier, and also potentially from a place of females not, I guess, being empowered enough to do what they want and say what they want, that type of thing. It's obviously not super reinforced nowadays. Women are much more independent and have more opportunity, of course, but I think that sometimes you can be still made to feel like that. And then in terms of training, I think taking up space is kind of saying like it's okay for you to grow in ways that maybe people don't think a woman should conventionally grow in, if that makes sense. So training to be as strong as you possibly can be might be viewed by some as more of a male perspective when it comes to exercise, but it's really not at all. And I think by doing the thing that people might not view as the norm, gives you the confidence, and it gives you kind of like, almost gives you like an authority to be like, I'm allowed to do this, and I feel good about doing this. And I think that by training to be stronger and actually getting in the gym and giving it a go, you teach yourself that it's okay and it's acceptable, and you're not gonna, I don't know, it's only going to benefit you in positive ways. It's going to make you into a more strong person. It's going to make you into a more confident person. So yeah, I think strength training definitely helps women feel like they have their place to kind of show up a little bit better and, work on themselves in ways that maybe they weren't taught to. Yeah. I think that saying definitely comes from a long history of societal norms and diet culture and shit like that, things like that, where we are told to where we are enforced or reinforced that in order to be worthy you have to be skinny. If you are bigger then you're not deemed as beautiful, or things like that quite often are kind of ingrained into females' brains as younger adults. But I think now there's kind of a shift in that mindset, which is really good to see. So I'm happy to see that there are now a lot more females advocating for strong women, and that's being taught to younger generations. So it doesn't have to always be like that.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I think being able to have people like yourself, kind of strong female role models, and also coaches to be able to help communicate that and guide people in that is super important. That's super important as well, and giving people kind of the confidence to literally take up space, whether it be in the gym or anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's kind of strange also being a stronger female, because I have got muscles on my body, and every now and then you like, even I find myself sometimes catching and going, oh, like my arms look quite big, like I look pretty big, and then I have to go, no, like stop saying that. If I didn't have muscles on my arms, I wouldn't be able to bench 80 kilos. I wouldn't be doing the job that I'm doing now, and I wouldn't be inspiring other people to push themselves out of their comfort zone and do the things that they think maybe are scary or not feminine, but they're going to benefit them, and I can protect myself with these guns. So
That's awesome. I think too, you're like, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but I've seen people's preferences for their own body image change as well. Like maybe women who were initially worried about getting bulky, and so they sort of try to minimize that side of it while still getting strong because that's something that they want to do. And then after a few years in it, they're like, actually, I'm starting to like the look of more muscle on my body, and what maybe would have been too muscular for their preferences earlier on actually starts to become a little bit more of a goal for them, and it sort of becomes an aesthetic that they like later on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was a teenager, if I knew that I was going to be this muscly now, I probably would have died. So, and now I'm like, well, I wouldn't have my body any other way. Like, I love my body. It can do incredible things. And I think it's really important to pass that message on to other girls, and say, like, strong is still beautiful. Just because you have muscles does not mean you're not attractive, or you're not feminine. It's just muscle, like. And the benefits of having it outweigh those things so much more, right? If you can live a longer life and you can be healthier, when you're an old grandma, then that's more important to me than being small because someone thinks that I should be small.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you've got this competition coming up on Saturday. What else is on the horizon for you for the rest of the year, either with your training or your coaching?
Training wise, I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna see after this competition, and I guess kind of map out where I want to go from here. If I'm gonna do any more novice comps or commit to a association over here. But given that, like, we're already almost halfway through the year, like, we're coming close to the end of the year, so I'm not too sure at this stage. I'm definitely going to look at what comps will be next, whether that will be this year or next year. I'm not sure at this stage. Because we're still kind of like, we've moved here about 6 months ago now. There's just a lot of uncertainty, I guess, in terms of life things. We are kind of come back to New Zealand at some stage for Christmas, so I think maybe it might be a 2026 thing for my next comp, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. In terms of coaching, I'm still coaching people. I've got a couple of athletes competing in the next couple of months in New Zealand. I've got one athlete competing at the Canterbury World Cup in October, and then I've got another athlete at Viking Cup in November. So we've got obviously preps for those. They're both online clients, obviously, because they're based back in New Zealand. But yeah, they've got some exciting stuff on the horizon. And then I guess it's kind of getting out the drawing board for my other athletes who might want to compete next year as well, and kind of seeing where that might fit in for them. I've got a couple of more novice competitors who I have done some comps with, but while I was in New Zealand. So it'd be really cool to maybe see if any competitions look appealing to them for next year, just to kind of push them out of their comfort zone again, and do something that they actually will really enjoy. And then I have a couple of athletes who are already thinking about next year comps, so it's going to be pretty busy, but still coaching, still taking on new athletes as well. So if any other athletes want to join on the prep train, then we've got room for more people. So if I can get any more online athletes onboarded within the next 6 months or the rest of this year, then that would be awesome as well. But yeah, a lot of focus will be on work for me.
That's really cool. And having heard from a few of your athletes, they've got nothing but good things to say about you, about, I guess, how you've helped to bring out what you've gained through lifting in them, and building their confidence, and helping them turn from being an average gym goer to somebody who takes it really seriously and competes in powerlifting and everything. So if anybody is thinking about signing up for the coach, I think Lauren is a top candidate to be considered in that, especially if you've got room at the moment.
Yeah, I do. So if any athletes out there would like to talk about coaching, or just learn a little bit more about powerlifting and what it involves, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Lauren_Barbell and Beyond, or Lauren at Barbell and Beyond, or you can just email me at nzlaurenmac21@gmail.com.
Exciting. So, and we'll put some links in the show notes so that those are easy to find.
Amazing. Awesome. That would be great.
Cool. Well, it's been great to hear a bit more about your your come up into lifting and stuff, because obviously we've worked together for a little bit now, but I haven't had the full rundown of how you got here with things. So that was really cool to hear, and excited to see how you do with the comp this weekend. All the best for that. I hope that it's smooth come into the comp day. And excited to see what you've got coming up for the rest of the year. So
amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
For the highest quality, personalized online coaching that will see you achieving your best powerlifting results, book a call with one of our expert coaches at Barbell and Beyond. We specialize in competition prep, nutrition for powerlifting, and helping you develop an elite athlete mindset. All of that and more can be found over at barbellandbeyond.online.